Greetings fellow mammals, the AM40 is the topic of today. It's the first gun in this video series that requires you to reach a certain level to unlock it. In this case, it's just level 4. Most of you probably reached that after 1 or 2 matches anyway. So let's talk about why I recommend this setup to you. And we will see if after all this time the AM40 still manages to hold its spot in A tier. So as usual, let's finish up with the intro and move on to the time to kill charts. First off, standard ammo. Nothing much to talk about yet. Let's add high power to it. This is pretty interesting. Usually you would expect high power to be better at range, but apparently not in this case. It gets this nice bonus in the really close range, and then the mids are somewhat tangled up between these two ammo types. A bit strange. Okay, last one, subsonic. Oh man, yeah, this is a clear case where subsonic is just a complete waste of time. It appears to be a carbon copy of high power, just worse. So what should we go for? Any other factors that might help with this choice? Well, we got magazine size, for example. Biggest you can get with high power is 30 rounds. On standard you can at least get a 40 round drum mag, so that is nice. Anything else? Well, the recoil on this gun is quite hefty for its rather mediocre performance. And even worse so with high power ammo. So personally I am starting to slightly lean into the standard ammo direction. Also, that 4 bullet to kill range high power has right at the start there is only for 10 meters. Of course it's nice, but you aren't losing a lot. The engagement ranges in this game are on average a bit longer than in older titles, so the amount of times you actually engage someone at 10 meters isn't even that high. I would say usually it's between 10 and 60 meters. Okay, I guess that settles it for me. I will take the standard ammo by default, put the 30 round version in second slot and high power in the last one. If you feel like you engage people way closer than me on a regular, I guess go for high power. At the end of the day, the difference isn't all too great. So for me, I guess what really decides it is the bigger magazine and easier to control recoil. And recoil is what brings us right to the barrels. What do we have here? Nothing special at least. So what should we go for? Personally, I can control the standard ammo recoil just fine. So I will use the tactical compensator for more accuracy. If you have a problem with the recoil, you should analyze what exactly the problem is. Does the gun pull too much left and right? Or is it just an overall problem? If it's just too much horizontal pull, I would go for the Arcom muzzle brake instead. If you feel like it needs to be less in all directions, then go for the Warhawk. But be aware with this one the accuracy suffers. After this pretty individual choice we get to something a lot more basic. Since carrying multiple muzzle brakes and compensators doesn't really make any sense, we only really got one thing left. Something for stealth. Of course we picked the wrapped suppressor, since this 6KU is just horrible. If you want more info on that stuff, let me know in the comments. In that case I might make a special episode just about the suppressors and what's wrong with their balancing. But anyway, moving on. What can we attach to the bottom? Also not a lot here. So we fall back on the regular question, what shall it be? Hip fire or ADS? Depending on your answer you pick the LS1 laser or the LWG grip. Pretty simple. Since we don't have anything other really interesting, you might as well carry them both along. And for the third slot, for the sake of continuity, of course, the flashlight. Yay! Now onto scopes. You guessed it, I want the red dot thermal in second place and the now common third pick, the 4x switchable. And that's it for the loadout. Nothing exciting really. Nothing exciting being the key phrase here. Is this unexciting gun really still A tier? To be fair, it used to be a lot more exciting, but I think DICE overdid it a bit with the nerfs. Not by a lot, but just a tiny bit too much. So how about I put this into perspective for you so my judgment makes more sense. If we pull out the chart again, we can observe some interesting comparisons. For example, let's take a gun we already talked about in a past episode, the M5A3. If we were to use subsonic on that gun, which you should, granted with short barrel, but we want to use that anyway, we would get this graph right there. Yeah, that doesn't look too great for the AM40 now, does it? How about another returning friend, the PBX? Let's say we use subsonic ammo on that gun too. How would that compare? Yeah, and for those of you saying, but look, it is worse at that long range there. Yeah, but at 150 meters, I doubt you will hit anything with the AM40 either. And since at that point you have to tap fire with both of them anyway, in theory the much reduced recoil on the PBX would probably end in a better outcome. And for those that watched the PBX episode, you already know subsonic isn't even the best ammo type on that gun. So it's not looking too great for the AM40 right now. Maybe one final comparison to really bring my point home. This time a gun we have not covered yet, the GEW46. Or just G36 for normal people. Oh boy, well, now it's just sad. And the thing is, I don't even consider the G36 to be S tier either. So where does that leave us with this gun? Now, after all these depressing comparisons, I want to remind you that this gun is still far from being bad. It's just not as good as other options. So I think A tier is not quite fitting for that type of description, is it? A down ranking should be in order. How about B tier? I think it fits perfectly in there. It has a decent performance, a nice 40 round mag, and actually also quite good hipfire for an assault rifle. But nothing special, nothing exciting. No attachments that could lift it up, just a regular gun that has some better competition here and there. But it also isn't really a handicap if you use it. It's just mediocre. What a melancholic ending. Well, it won't be the last episode where we'll have to talk about average weapons that just exist. But that's it for today. I hope you still managed to enjoy this episode. If so, I would appreciate it if you would grant me your like. Also, if you actually really enjoyed this, you are exactly the target audience I am aiming for. So you should really consider subscribing. There will be a lot more episodes like this one, and since I get a lot of DMs about piloting, I think I might have to do a guide for that in the future too. In the meantime, I will see you on the battlefield. Sorrow out.